Hello everyone, and welcome to Spiel. Today, by popular request, and because it's something I wanted to do, I'm going to be talking about this game, Spiral Knights. At the start of the last video I did, I described it as a top-down dungeon-crawling free-to-play MMO from Three Rings. Three Rings are previously responsible for Yo-Ho-Ho Puzzle Pirates and a few other free-to-play MMO games that I can't remember offhand. If you haven't run away immediately upon hearing the words free-to-play, I can elaborate a little more. Let me check, see what level this is first. I didn't actually check. We are doing a jelly level, which means I am perfectly well equipped to fight jellies. So yeah, the game is available on Steam and from the developers and what have you for free, but that doesn't mean it's awful. It's actually a pretty decent game. They've taken the attitude towards it of all the actual content in the game should be accessible just by playing it without having to put down any real money. There's a very, very small handful of things that you could ever not actually get within the game without paying real money, and those are entirely cosmetic items. Which is a pretty good strategy to have. It's worked quite well for Team Fortress 2, and that's a pretty good model to follow. The way the mechanics work behind that is that you are given a set amount of energy per day. You can see this counter in the bottom right hand corner, where I have 10,186 energy, and below it another little meter that says 79. The big number is my crystal energy, which is the important one, and the smaller number, the 79, is mist energy. Mist energy is generated at a rate of 100 per day. I think it's a little under a day, something like 22 hours, I think. So once every 22 hours, you regenerate 100 energy. 100 energy can be used to go down into Clockworks and play levels. The Clockworks is the name of all the dungeons. I'll elaborate on that a little bit later. Each floor of the dungeons consumes 10 energy to enter. So you can play, assuming you don't use your energy for anything else, you're allowed to play 10 floors a day. I find that to be adequate. Some people might like a little more. Depends how much free time you've got, I suppose. For me, 10 hours is a good couple of hours worth. 10 floors is a good couple of hours worth of gameplay, so I don't really have any issues. I don't want to play much more than that in a day. Energy can also be used to revive your character if you die, as well as unlocking a few bonus things in instances, and for crafting. All require different amounts. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need more than 100 energy for something, you're going to need to spend some crystal energy. Crystal energy, as a resource, is only ever created in the world through real money transactions, which is where the devs make their money. By buying crystal energy to fund your gameplay, they get to keep running the game. That doesn't mean that you need to buy this crystal energy in order to carry on playing the game, because you can trade other players for it, which is a fantastic feature, I think. Right, well, I don't know which way to head here. I think there might be some stuff down here. Oh yeah, I've got this bomb that I don't know why I brought this with me. It's not that great. So yeah, by trading the readily accessible currency crowns, they're called, for the crystal energy, You can achieve all the crafting, or... Jeez, I need to heal up. You can craft whatever you need, or play as much as you want, purely off actual gameplay. It's a much slower route than spending real money, but you'll get there eventually. Basically, all you're paying for is to speed up the process. So, if that sounds reasonable to you, I can talk about the gameplay a little. You'll start off crash landing on the world in your spaceship, the Skylark, one of the few survivors, or, well, actually there's quite a lot running about at this stage, there seem to be a fair few survivors. And your job is to find a way off the planet. You'll do this by heading down through the depths of the clockworks, fighting tougher and tougher enemies, and eventually, hopefully, find a power source to get your ship back off the ground. You will start out with some very, very basic gear, and if you want to fight any of the tougher enemies, you're going to need to improve it quite quickly, and you can do this by crafting. You can also buy a few bits from vendors for grossly inflated prices, or trade from other players, but the primary source of getting stuff, you're going to craft most of your stuff yourself, really. Now, like I say, that costs materials, costs crowns, and a bit of energy. It starts out quite reasonable amounts of energy. About halfway through the game, suddenly you start requiring amounts that are more than 100. Haven't I just done this room? It's going to be the same room twice in a row. Yeah, I should point out that... That's not what I want to shoot, I want to shoot that. Yeah, I should point out that the Clockworks levels are divided into standard missions that are pretty much the same every time, and then there's the arcade, which I'm in at the minute, which is fairly randomly generated. There are a few scripted levels in there that come out the same every time, but for the most part it takes a lot of randomized things, and you end up with a different level every time, which is cool. And the different types of levels that can come up cycle every couple of days as well. So you'll never get the same level twice. In terms of the actual gear that your character has, there are classes in the game, but you will never be shoehorned into one by the game. You never pick a specific class at the start. You won't be asked for that. You can use swords, you can use guns, or you can use bombs. But you can mix and match them as you see fit. You can start out with 2 weapon slots, you can upgrade that to 4. And you can use whichever ones you like, any that catch your fancy. Usually I run with 3 different swords and a gun. Today, for the jellies, I'm carrying this electric sword. This, nope, it's not the one. Shadow sword is the one. A shadow bomb, which is a little bit of a novelty. I can't say I've ever managed to do any decent damage with it, but it looks cool. And the electric gun, that's got a massive range on it, huge AoE, and inflicts shock on enemies that aren't already shock themed like these, so all I can do is damage these guys. Oh, didn't want to do that. Let's go through here. So yeah, like, hey, I've got 3 different swords. All the damage in the game is divided into 3 different types: shadow, piercing, and elemental. Different enemies deal different types of damage, have different resistances, and hang on. They deal different types of damage, have different resistances, and different weaknesses. That's the other one, yes. So jellies here, weak to shadow damage. Resistant to piercing because they're jellies. Have you ever tried stabbing a jelly? And elementals neutral to them. There's also a number of weapons that deal normal damage, which just deal the same damage to absolutely everything. So if you're going with a lot of specialist gear, it's often useful to have a normal one in backup just so that you can hit everything. I think I missed a branch somewhere, but I can't be asked wandering back to get it. I'll head down to the next floor, which is a mystery level. Yeah, normally the floors sort of cycle through a preset half a dozen different types of level. In this case, it picks one at random, so it could be anything. Well, looks like we've got a undead level. Undead, deal shadow, resist shadow, and are weak to elementals, so I'm going to be using the electric sword a lot here. All the armour in the game has different resistances on as well. I'll show you a few pieces here. I'm wearing my mercurial helm, which is resistant to piercing damage. Don't want that on here really. And I'm wearing my Skulver coat, which is resistant to piercing. Again, both of those great for fighting jellies, but this is undead, so go to the equipment station. I've got my paladin loadout for fighting the undead and fiends. I can go forth and fight the undead minions. Okay, these are spookats. They are ghost cats. Electric spookats at that. They probably have some sort of specialised name, but I don't know the individual types. They move really fast and take massive bites out of you. But they're not too tricky to deal with on their own. So yeah, if you have a look at my gear now, I am wearing an elemental resist hat because I don't have a particularly good shadow on yet. That's kind of the only gap in my armour, actually, really. And I've got my shadow and elemental resist coat. I'm wearing a shadow trinket, and my overall stats look like that. As you can see, I've got all three different types of sword on me, so that makes up for not carrying a normal sword because I've got the appropriate weapon for fighting any given class. That takes a while to gain an armour equivalent to that, really. If it's just starting out in the game, you'd be better off with normal gear, because that way it's reasonably effective against everything. Another thing to note is that there are no player levels. There's no leveling curve, no grind to level 60, 70, 80, what have you. Everybody starts out the same, everyone is equally strong at the end as they start out with. Everyone can wear the fact is, everyone can wear all the gear right from the start. Like I say, you can pick any weapon you want, and that includes in terms of strength as well. If somebody you know gave you the high-end endgame gear right at the start, you would be perfectly entitled to use that. The gear is ranked from 0 to 5 stars. 5 star obviously being really, really good. 0 being not much cop. And that's the, obviously, yeah, there are massive distinctions in player. If you go into a guild, they might ask, oh, you need to be 5-star geared, which it's treated similar to a leveling curve, but it's not a leveling curve. Like I say, it's work at your own pace. Which is, I think that's quite a nice feature of the game. Everyone's the same except for cosmetics. Ah, it's electric zombies. Obviously, my high-end gear does crazy things like this. When you're starting out, don't expect your swords to do that, because they won't. But it's something to look forward to when you get geared up. Ah, these are grievers, and they are fiends, so they require piercing damage. And if you get attacked by more than a couple of them at a time, they're going to deal some nasty damage. They're fiends, so they deal shadow damage. They usually inflict some type of status effect. I think the standard ones deal shadow, but it can be pretty much anything. Deal shadow? Sorry, I mean deal stun. Now I'm using... There you go, I see I'm using the wrong weapon against them. They're undead, and I'm using a shadow weapon. And it does next to nothing to them. You can hack away for ages. You will get there eventually, but it's going to be a slow process. So yeah, in addition to all these random levels that I'm doing at the minute, there's obviously quite a lot of pre-scripted missions. There's a few dozen standard ones that are supposed to be kind of your story, your leveling curve kind of thing. You will need to do a lot of work on the side to augment that as well. You won't, you won't be able to burn through it to endgame just off the story missions. You'll have to come down into the arcade clockworks like this and do random stuff, or repeat missions or whatever you. But there's a lot of cool stuff in there. A few bosses around. You will find a boss usually somewhere in the arcade, but you got to know where you're going. Those are obviously all pre-scripts. If you go to a boss level, it's going to be the same every time, but they're usually quite cool levels. Usually got some unique or interesting feature going for them. The toughest boss in the game, arguably, would be the DLC, which I'd like to take a moment to talk about because that's a bit of a contentious issue for a lot of people. Because that's one of the few items in the game you can't get without buying it. There are a few weapons. That shadow bomb I'm carrying, you get from the DLC. Basically, yeah, unless you're willing to put up I think it's quite a reasonable amount, to be quite honest. It's like £3 or £4. You get a tough mission with some good rewards at the end of it, and a really challenging boss fight. I personally think it's worth the money. A lot of people who, for whatever reason, I don't know, don't have access to credit cards or whatever, and just can't buy it. Everyone's got up in arms about that, and maybe rightly so. It's a free-to-play game and they're locking content out, but plenty of people have managed to, you know, play the game normally, earn resources, got some crystal energy or whatever you, and then used Steam's trading feature to just trade for the content, which is one way to do it. I don't think people tend to trade it for that much. I mean, once I kill these, hang on, I will show you the values of the energy. Right, this is where you would buy your energy from. 750 is about $2.50, so for maybe a little bit more than that, if you had like 1,000 energy or something, someone would probably trade you for that DLC, because they're probably roughly equal in value. $5 gets you 1,600. Yeah, I'd say about 1,000 CE would probably cover you. So that's a little bit more than you need to get one of the best items in the game, a 5-star piece. But it's still not that much to ask for a good chunk of content. Also, it just depends who's trading as well, you know. There's obviously a market like Team Fortress 2, so you end up with all sorts of crazy entrepreneurs buying and selling and trading all day long. Not my cup of tea, but some people do. Right, this is a danger room. This is considerably harder than the normal content. I'm in tier 3, so it's going to be really, really hard, and I don't want to try that on my own. I'm going to run on just a coward. Just be a coward. Ooh, Nick explores an arena. Let's go down and show you some arena. I've lost track of where I was. Yeah, trading for DLC, I think. If you want to do that, I think that's a viable option. I'm personally happy to put down the £3 for it, but I have disposable income. Like I say, I recognise not everyone does. And, well, sucks to be them. I don't mean to be harsh on that one, but can't think of a way around that. Like I say, that's probably the few items. I'll find them in my inventory. There's a big rocket hammer here, the stable rocket hammer that I'm looking at. That's one of them. He doesn't drop a gun. He drops that bomb, Dark Reprisal, and if you fight him a few times, you can get an extra helmet out of it. So, okay, technically they're not cosmetic pieces, but they ain't that useful. Some people like the hammer. I don't. I've never seen anyone use that bomb particularly well. And then there are equivalent or better armor pieces. It's a very generic armor piece in terms of stats. Anyway, what am I doing? This is beasts, I believe, so I want to put my Beast Slayer gear on. And while I'm level... yeah, I'll put that on because I just want to level it up a bit. Yeah, that's the closest thing the game has to levels, is the item levels. Every item you craft starts at level 1. I'm going to want my stabby sword. Oh shit, it's not beasts, is it? It's... damn. It's not beasts, it's gremlins. Damn. Well, good job I've got my 3 swords, because that means I'm ready for anything. This room is an arena room. It gives you 3 rooms of increasing difficulty. You do need to fight at least one of those, which is this first room. Which, I think it has more waves than the rest, but it's not usually massively challenging. Although it will be if those things hit me again. And what even happened? I wasn't paying attention. Well, there we go. That's what we use energy for. I've got to revive, which does a little blast and stun, rub the enemies around. That actually scales. The more energy you spend, the bigger the shockwave is. But you need to spend a lot to get it to do any real damage. Yeah, there's 3 rooms here, increasing difficulty. If you beat the 3rd one, much treasure and loot and riches and rewards are yours. But you can stop after any given room if you just want to do the first one and move on to a lower depth. If it's giving you any trouble, yeah, no one's forcing you to do it. A lot of people like them. Oh, well, they used to be quite popular as a source of earning money. I think just these days, I've not heard of anyone running arenas these days. It's typically just running the final boss over and over again is the primary method of earning money. Yeah, eat shadow. So, big dude here, he's a Trojan, because he's a horse. He hits incredibly hard, but he's big and slow and weak to piercing. Which means I can stab him in the back. And when you kill him, he turns to stone. Cool, right, so that's that. There weren't any health capsules there? No. We can go and claim our arena prize. See, there's the next room. Here's my reward for doing one room. There's many more boxes after the second room, and many, many more boxes after the third room. Plus, obviously, because there's more enemies, you get all the rewards from killing them as well. And you get the opportunity to heal up between rooms, which is always nice. I'm going to leave it there. I could show you more of it, but it's just more of the same. I think I've mostly covered everything in the game now. Or there's another arena next. I've covered most of the fundamentals of the game, so hopefully you've got a bit of a feel for what the game is and what it's about and what it's like, and hopefully you might be inspired to try it out and come join us. And if you fancy someone to show you the ropes, throw me a line in game. I am Meroka, as always. I'm part of a very friendly guild called Dark Arts. So if you want to come chill with the Dark Arts, we'd be more than happy to have you. I've been Meroka. I'll see you later.